Clara's head pounded, a relentless drumbeat against her skull. It was a familiar sensation these days, a constant companion that seemed to amplify with each passing hour. The pressure behind her eyes intensified, blurring the edges of her vision and making it difficult to focus on the screen in front of her. She massaged her temples, hoping to alleviate the throbbing, but the relief was fleeting, a temporary truce in a battle she was increasingly losing. Her vision blurred, the neat rows of spreadsheets and project timelines dissolving into a hazy, indistinct mess. The digital world swam before her, each line of code and data point a tiny, mocking reminder of the mountain of work that lay ahead. She blinked, trying to regain clarity, but the blur persisted, a visual manifestation of the mental fog that had settled over her mind. The fluorescent lights seemed to pulse with the frantic rhythm of her heart, their harsh glare exacerbating her headache. Each flicker felt like a tiny hammer blow, driving deeper into her skull. She longed for the soft, warm glow of natural light, for the calming embrace of the outdoors, but she was trapped, tethered to her desk by an invisible web of obligations. Around her, the open-plan office buzzed with energy, a hive of activity where phones rang, keyboards clacked, and voices overlapped in a constant hum. It was a symphony of productivity, a testament to the company's relentless pursuit of success. But to Clara, it was just noise, a cacophony that amplified her stress and made it impossible to concentrate. A stark contrast to the exhaustion that threatened to swallow her whole. It was a deep, bone-weary fatigue that permeated every cell in her body, leaving her feeling drained and depleted. She longed to escape, to retreat to a quiet place where she could recharge and regroup. But the demands of her job kept her chained to her desk, a prisoner of her own ambition. Deadlines loomed, each one a looming spectre that cast a long shadow over her already burdened mind. They were constant reminders of the pressure she was under, the expectations she had to meet, and the consequences of failure. Emails flooded her inbox faster than she could close them, a relentless torrent of requests, updates, and demands that threatened to drown her completely. Each new message was a fresh wave of anxiety, another task to add to her already overflowing plate. Each yes she'd uttered to extra projects, last-minute requests and favors for colleagues now felt like a weight dragging her down, an anchor pulling her deeper and deeper into the abyss of overwhelm. She had become a people-pleaser, a yes-woman, sacrificing her own well-being for the sake of others, and now she was paying the price. The word echoed in her mind, a relentless chorus of obligation, a constant reminder of the promises she had made and the commitments she had undertaken. It was a self-imposed prison, built brick by brick with each affirmative response. She was drowning, and the only thing she knew how to do was say yes to one more task. A desperate attempt to stay afloat in a sea of responsibilities. It was a vicious cycle, a self-destructive pattern that was slowly, but surely, eroding her sanity. She knew she needed to break free, to learn to say no, but the fear of disappointing others, of being perceived as unhelpful or incompetent, held her captive. It started early, this reflex to please. In grade school, it was carrying all the art supplies, volunteering for every bake sale, saying yes to every play date. Her reward, a smile, a thank you, the warm glow of approval. Clara is such a sweetheart, the adults would say. Her parents beamed, the pattern was set. Saying yes became as natural as breathing, a way to win love, acceptance, and her place in the world. The presentation slide swam before Clara's eyes. Her carefully crafted words, usually delivered with confidence, stumbled and fell flat. The client, a major player in the tech industry, looked unimpressed. Her boss, Miss Jensen, known for her icy composure, tapped her foot impatiently. This was a disaster. The kind born from missed deadlines, sleepless nights, and the crushing weight of too many yeses. As the meeting ended in a chilly silence, Clara knew something had to change. This wasn't success, it was self-destruction. Burnout, that insidious state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion, had crept into Clara's life like a thief in the night. It had started subtly, with longer hours and skipped lunches, but soon it had escalated into a constant feeling of dread and overwhelm. The vibrant spark that once fueled her creativity had dwindled, leaving behind a hollow shell of her former self. Raj said, his voice a soothing balm in the midst of Clara's internal storm. He was a beacon of calm in the often turbulent waters of the advertising agency. Leaning back in his chair, a comfortable posture that exuded both confidence and approachability, his voice calm and steady. Classic case, he observed, a knowing glint in his eye. He'd seen it countless times before, talented individuals pushing themselves to the brink, sacrificing their well-being at the altar of ambition. Raj, a man who seemed to possess an uncanny ability to navigate the complexities of the human psyche, a senior art director respected not only for his creative vision but also for his profound understanding of human nature, with a zen-like aura, a quiet strength that emanated from within, making him a natural confidant. Was the closest thing the agency had to a therapist. He was the go-to person for anyone struggling with the pressures of the demanding industry. He'd seen Clara's distress, the subtle signs of her unraveling, the increasing anxiety etched on her face. And, in a moment of grace, recognizing the urgency of the situation and the potential for a deeper crisis, invited her for a coffee break, a seemingly casual gesture that held the weight of genuine concern. That turned into a lifeline, a turning point in Clara's struggle against the encroaching darkness of burnout. He listened patiently, without judgment, offering a safe space for her to unload the burdens she'd been carrying in silence. As she confessed, her voice trembling with vulnerability, her inability to say no, the constant stream of requests she felt compelled to fulfill, even at her own expense, her fear of disappointing others, the deep-seated need for validation that drove her to overcommit and overextend herself, the crippling pressure she put on herself, the relentless self-criticism that amplified every mistake and magnified every perceived inadequacy. "Clara," he said, his tone gentle but firm, cutting through the noise of her self-doubt. His dark eyes filled with understanding, reflecting the shared experience of navigating the demanding world of creative work. "You need to set boundaries. It's not selfish. It's essential for your survival and your well-being. You teach people how to treat you." It was a simple statement, yet it held a profound truth that Clara desperately needed to hear. In the relentless rhythm of the modern workplace, requests never cease. They arrive constantly, each one vying for attention, each one demanding a piece of your time and energy. The next request came, as they always did, in the form of an urgent email. The subject line screamed importance, the sender's name carried weight, and the preview hinted at yet another demand on Clara's already stretched resources. A new project. A complex undertaking with multiple moving parts requiring careful coordination and dedicated effort. It was the kind of project that could easily consume weeks, if not months, of focused work. A tight deadline. The email made it clear. This wasn't a leisurely endeavor. The project needed to be completed quickly, efficiently, and with impeccable results. The pressure was palpable, the stakes were high, and the clock was already ticking. Could Clara help? Could she realistically take on another major responsibility without sacrificing the quality of her existing work or her own well-being? The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, paralyzed by the weight of the decision. Each keystroke felt like a commitment, a promise to dedicate even more of herself to the demands of her job, the words "yes, of course" forming in her mind. It was the default response, the ingrained habit of a high achiever who always strived to please. The desire to be helpful, to be seen as reliable and capable, was a powerful force. Her heart hammered in her chest. A physical manifestation of the internal conflict raging within her. The familiar feeling of overwhelm threatened to engulf her, the pressure mounting with each passing second, but Raj's words echoed in her ears. Boundaries. Clear, firm, and non-negotiable boundaries. The key to sustainable success, to preventing burnout, to reclaiming control over her own life. She took a deep breath and typed, steeling herself for the potential consequences. The fear of disappointing someone, of being perceived as uncooperative, lingered in the back of her mind. I appreciate you thinking of me. A polite and professional opening, acknowledging the request without immediately committing to it. But I'm at capacity right now. A simple, direct statement of fact, an honest assessment of her current workload, without excuses or apologies. I can't take on anything else. The definitive declaration, the line in the sand, the terrifying yet liberating word, no, the send button seemed to pulsate menacingly. A beacon of potential conflict, a gateway to uncomfortable conversations and possible repercussions. With a trembling finger, she clicked it. A small act of defiance, a victory for self-preservation, a step towards a healthier and more balanced life. Then the world didn't end. The sky didn't fall, the office didn't erupt in chaos, and Clara didn't spontaneously combust. In fact, a sense of calm washed over her, a feeling of empowerment and control that she hadn't experienced in a long time. The terrifying no had turned out to be a powerful act of self-care. The pushback, when it came, was subtle but real. There was a surprised silence from a colleague who was used to her ready agreement, and even a touch of frost in Miss Jensen's tone. For a moment the old anxieties threatened to engulf her. But, something had shifted. The fear was still there, but it was quieter now, less powerful. She reminded herself of Raj's words, "You are not obligated to say yes to everything." And for the first time she truly believed it. The more she said no to the unnecessary, the stronger her voice became. She began to advocate for her time, to negotiate deadlines, to delegate tasks when needed. The world didn't fall apart. In fact, something remarkable happened. Her colleagues, instead of pushing back, began to respect her boundaries. Miss Jensen, though never effusive, offered a curt nod of approval when Clara confidently declined an unreasonable request. Her work, no longer spread thin, regained its focus and creativity. The exhaustion began to lift. The frantic energy was replaced by a calmer, more focused drive. Clara rediscovered the joy in her work, the satisfaction of a job well done. She made time for yoga, for long walks, for dinners with friends, things she used to sacrifice at the altar of productivity. The world opened up. Saying no to others had become an act of saying yes to herself. It wasn't selfish, it was essential. Looking back, Clara couldn't believe how much power she had given away by being afraid to utter a single two-letter word. The journey hadn't been easy, but each no she voiced chipped away at the old patterns, revealing a stronger, more authentic self. The people-pleaser was gone, replaced by a woman who understood her worth, her limits, and the power of a well-placed no. It was a lesson she would carry with her, a reminder that sometimes the bravest, most empowering thing you can do is to simply say no.